Obscure world records continue, in this case the Jeans Mile and a 6-day run. Sarah Hall is eyeing the track for Plan B, and we talk with BYU sub-4 miler Talem Franco about his radioactive senior season that came to an unexpected end in March, and how the future, despite all, can still be bright. Coming right up.
Information about the world of running, inspiration to fuel passion and excellence, and ideas for making connections and finding community. You're listening to AtoZrunning.
Welcome back. I'm Zach.
And I'm Andy.
Thanks for joining us on the show again. And like many of you, we are trying to find ways of coping with our training along with our family and doing all of it together all at the same time, and finding that it doesn't always work out super well for us. Like this week when we tried a track day with the boys again.
Yeah, they kind of cried for us around the track, and I wasn't feeling great anyway. Come to find out, fries and Diet Coke are really bad to have before you run.
It's a good thing Andy didn't ask me my opinion on that ahead of time.
Gotta live a little. Live a little.
That's what you were doing. You were living a little.
I'm living it up.
You were also dying a little inside every lap. Well, so we tried to run around the track while the boys were just like playing and stuff, and it worked for a hot second, and then DJ apparently realized that Andy was running around the track, and he just kind of started wandering slowly, trying to follow her on her laps, screaming bloody murder the entire time.
That's sad.
And he was just so concerned that Mama was running. And then when she stopped, he wouldn't let her do anything but just hold him.
Yeah, I held him the whole time.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen often. Well, we still had an opportunity before the week was out to redeem the training a little bit at least as well.
And I have to say, like, part of it was doing this interview with Talem, which you're going to hear in just a minute, because he said some pretty profound things that helped me with my mindset on my long run.
He said a lot of profound things, but we're not going to give that away yet.
No.
So we had our long runs after the track workout experience fiasco, and both of us had good experiences with the run. Andy, you think you have some insight into why?
Yeah, so I've kind of been struggling lately, and I have been having some allergy issues that I've been continuing to work on by just being more consistent with their allergy medication. But the other part of it was that I was lifting up my heels. I just focused on one thing. We've talked about that a lot on this podcast and in our blog posts, that it's really good to hone in on like one thing that you can make better, make an improvement for a run. And I decided picking up my heels was going to be this one thing. And I just felt like things started to come together for me. And I got to that cruisy state, you know, where it's not hard, but it feels really good and everything clicks.
Yeah, and so there's certainly, we've learned over the years that there are certain things for both of us that tend to help bring us back to center. And so for Andy, that picking up the heels thing is a huge part of it. That does not help me. And I'm not sure why, but that specifically doesn't, which has just always been interesting to me. It helps her a lot, doesn't help me. But in my own long run, I can't say it was anything more than just great weather. It was cool and sunny, and it's hard to beat cool and sunny for a long run. So, you know, I felt good. And I took a day off the day before.
That might have helped.
I was just feeling like I needed it.
Good insight. Well, we can't wait to give you this interview with Talem, but first we're going to talk about the world of running.
All right, so first up, we have got to tell you about the Jeans Mile world record that we just watched.
Yes, like literally
just
10 seconds ago.
It happened more than 10 seconds ago, but we just watched it.
Yes.
So on May 30th, Johnny Gregorek attempted the world record mile run while wearing 100% cotton blue jeans.
Yes.
The record that was 4:11.
So like legit fast.
Legit fast. I mean, like these are fast. So I've run 4:12 in the mile. Period. And these guys are doing it in blue jeans.
Yeah. I wonder if Talem could hang with these guys, our guest on the show. I'm sure he can.
Maybe
he can run a sub 4 mile,
him.
so he could get this record. He could crush it next week if he wanted to.
Talem, what's your blue jeans best for a mile run.
We've been kind of on a kick talking about these world records, but this was very entertaining, I have to say. So if you're looking for something to make you smile and really kind of drop your jaw a little bit, then we'll be linking to this in our podcast blog post.
You got to watch it. I mean, you got to watch it. What does it look like when a sub 4 miler runs a mile wearing blue jeans?
I mean, it's pretty fluid. I'm not gonna lie.
You might be surprised.
I can't even walk that nice in blue jeans, and then he's like doing a full stride. It's amazing.
I want to see what the seams looked like after that run. Did he pop some seams? Did he split some seams?
He did have a belt on.
They were belted.
Yeah.
Belted and tucked.
Yeah.
Classy.
His jersey was tucked in. We're not fashion advisors here on A to Z Running. We talk about running, so let's get back to that.
So you got to watch this video. We're going to post it, and we're going to link it, and it's incredible to see, and you got to watch it. 4:06 mile in blue jeans. Congrats to Johnny Gregoric. And by the way, he did it to raise money as well for the National Association for Mental Illness. Raised $35,000 in memory of his brother Patrick.
Yeah, really cool.
Congrats, Johnny.
Congrats. Next up, Sarah Hall. It's kind of cool. Podium Runner did an article talking about how some of the pros are training during this time where they're not able to race. And Sarah Hall has been running with two of her daughters at the track, like doing some track workouts, because Sarah Hall will be attempting at the trials in track events. So she's working towards that 5K, 10K speed.
Yeah, so if you recall, we pegged her as one of the favorites in the marathon, and it didn't pan out for her. So naturally, she wants to look for another chance to get to the games, and she's fast enough that she might have a shot on the track.
Absolutely. But I thought that was really cool that she could do it with her daughters. This week, we tried to get out there with our sons, who are very young, and it did not go over so well.
It should be mentioned that our boys are not trying to run sub 5 miles.
No.
And her daughters are. So she's got something else going on.
I'm just saying, it gives me some vision of the future with our kids running at the track with us.
Wouldn't it
I'm looking forward to that.
Swell.
Yes. So speaking of the Halls, Ryan Hall on his podcast, Run Free Training Podcast, he has Dathan Ritzenhein and Alan Webb on. It was like a day after we talked about the three of them, the trifecta, on our podcast.
The trifecta? You're just going to make up new names for them now.
Well, they have their own. What is their own again?
The Big Three.
The Big Three, yeah.
Some Sports Illustrated writer or something gave it to
Anyway, that's pretty epic. We'll link to that. It's a great conversation.
It's a good chat, yeah.
And like I said, we talked about them, and then there they were.
It must have been our fault. We're the ones who made it happen.
Existence. No, it's something big that's been on people's minds lately, as Dathan Ritzenhein has retired, and now all three of them are retired. So they left their legacy, they left their stamp on the sport, and they made it better. American distance running is better because of those three.
And one more world record attempt coming down for you. So this one is, you'd never peg this as he's going to attempt a world record, but at 69 years old, Michael, I don't know how to say his last name, Copy, is going to attempt the Superior Hiking Trail fastest known time record, which is a 310-mile trail. So we're talking about ultramarathoning stuff here, and it basically just like follows the north shore of Lake Superior, which is cool because it's kind of semi-home turf for us. I mean, it's mostly Canada and Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's not Michigan side, but anyway, that is incredible. So at 69 years old, he's going for the world record, or at least the fastest known time, and that currently sits somewhere in about 6 days and some odd hours, and he's claiming he's going to gun for 4 days. He wants to shave 2 days off that time.
Wow.
That's something.
Yeah.
In the interview, by the way, when asked about things like his age, he basically shrugs it off and he's like, just don't ask about my age. I don't really think about it. I'm just going to do it if I can do it. I'm like, that's cool.
I love it. That's how I want to be.
Yeah.
I already feel like I have to do that sometimes.
You want to be running 310-mile races at 70 years old?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know that I ever want to be doing that.
I don't know about running. Maybe hiking.
Oh, well, there you go. So we'll put a link to all of those things because they're great and wonderful things for you to check out. There is some unfortunate news in the pike as well in the running world. Things like Boston Marathon being canceled now.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other majors are potentially on that same block.
Yeah.
So much like what we were all kind of predicting at this point, it sounds like the fall racing scene is going to be slim at best. But we're hoping that some smaller events are still going to be on, and we are definitely looking for opportunity ourselves, like many of you.
Yeah, so there's one locally in the Grand Rapids area, Team Orphan 5K. So we'll link to that too, and you'll actually be able to race. It follows all of the social distancing guidelines because there's going to be groups of 10 in waves going off. So every 10 minutes, there are groups going out to race.
And this format's awesome because you can schedule what time you want to start. And if you schedule with other people, you would know, like you can know who you're starting around if you want to as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's super limited for sign up. So if you're not already familiar with it, jump on. We're going to link to their page here so you can jump on and learn more.
Absolutely.
Well, that about wraps up what we have for now. So we're going to kick it over to our interview in just a moment after a quick break.
This week's interview guest is Talem Franco, and he is a speedster. He just graduated from BYU, and he was part of that cross-country team.
Part of the national championship team.
Yes, he was part of that
2019.
team from 2019.
What a crazy season. That was incredible.
Yeah, and Talem didn't really start as a cross-country runner. He got into that through his time there at BYU.
We're going to have to let him talk about that because it's actually quite incredible. He just, the timing, especially the fact that he got onto the team because he had to work his way onto that cross-country team. Mm-hmm. And then the timing of getting onto the team.
Yeah.
And then it's the national championship program. Great.
It was really impressive. So he's run a 3:58 mile.
That's indoors.
Very
which
impressive.
Is exceptional. That was in 2019, 20.
No, it was
this 2020
just
season.
Recently.
Yeah, it was this past winter season.
And it was setting him up to, even though we didn't get to see him at the indoor championships, he was set up to do really well there. So
it would have been exciting to see that come together. Maybe it wouldn't have. You never know. But he was on that trajectory.
We connected with Talem in an article that we had published right after all of these races were canceled. And I really wanted to get him on the air, not only because he is a bright hope, a bright light for the future of running, but also because he's got some really profound things to share with us, with all of you. And so we wanted to bring him on the air to say these things.
Without a doubt, after listening to this conversation, you will understand why Talem is going to help you believe that the future is indeed still bright.
Hi, Talem.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going great.
Thanks so much for being here with us.
So really appreciate that you're willing to take some time here, and especially just kind of in this awkward in-between period. We want to try to capture a bit of your experiences before the pandemic stuff, as well as kind of what's going on with you now and where you're thinking about headed next. Mm-hmm. So thanks for taking that time to share with us.
No, thank you for inviting me on. It's an honor, really.
Well, we're happy that you're here. And you actually haven't been like waiting in limbo. Like you haven't been doing that. You've actually been busy finishing school, right? So that just happened.
Yeah. So I actually graduated. I got a bachelor's degree in microbiology and a minor in French.
Very nice.
I kept busy during the pandemic, even though I was kind of bored with no racing and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's the period that we're all kind of in as we're sitting here, like trying to stay motivated, trying to stay engaged with our sport, but not really having many great outlets. So before we were actually recording, when we were just talking off air earlier, you shared that you're still training, but you're training in a little bit different way. In large part, a benefit to be able to kind of work on a weakness area for you. Is that an accurate assessment of what you were saying?
Yeah, that is very true. I'm really bad at the aerobic base. Like when people talk about the base of a pyramid, mine's usually pretty small. So my pyramid peak isn't really that high, but I'm still able to work through it. I think I have a pretty good speed endurance, and that kind of what brings me through a lot of races and a lot of training. So this kind of pandemic, a lot of my teammates have been aggressive with their type of training, but with Coach, I was talking with Coach Eyestone, and he kind of said, hey, let's take a step back and let's focus on a weakness of yours. Let's work on your aerobic base. And so I'm just actually doing just weekly mileage, just trying to get in that aerobic fitness so that I could have a bigger ceiling And it's been good for me. It hurts. Like, I really haven't been doing 75, 85 miles a week. Like, I can't imagine what you guys do as marathoners. I mean, I must be insane to do like 90 plus miles a week. But for me, 85 is killing, and I'm always tired. I'm always hot. It's getting hot here in Utah. But I just took a step back with my training. Like, I'm not being very aggressive on the track or anything like that. I'm just on the roads, just throwing in the miles, going through shoes left and right. It's kind of crazy how many shoes I've been going through, to be honest.
Yeah, that's actually.
But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's a good point with the shoes, right? Are you doing anything with like strength and mobility? Are you doing like some weights? What does that look like?
I would, to be honest, but I really haven't recently. We had no opportunity to go lift weights. BYU shut down, and all the other like weight rooms are just barely starting to open. So for the past 2 months, I really haven't had any weight options. But a friend of mine, Connor McMillan, he's a professional runner for Adidas. He just barely bought a squat rack, and I have a bench set that I just recently acquired. So we just barely threw together this kind of rugged weight room in the back of my shed, and we're just like, all right, we're going for it. So we just barely actually started it this week. So I definitely am sore this week.
Yeah.
On top of the miles, just because, if you don't use it, you lose it in the weight room. And I'm definitely suffering from that.
Well, it's probably better that you found a way to fit it back in now than, wait until you're ready to get aggressive on the track and then you try to throw everything back together at the same time. That might even be worse.
Yeah, that would hurt so bad. I can just imagine it already.
So I want to go back just a little bit, if we can, for just a minute and talk about what was the winter like, because you were on a trajectory of greatness. And I'm not saying that past tense like you're not anymore, as much as it's just you don't have the opportunity to express it now. But you were headed that direction and things were going well. What was going on in the winter that was fueling that successful trajectory?
During the winter, it was definitely a high coming off of cross country. And on my team, we have so many good distance runners. We obviously just won the national championship this last cross country fall season, which was really, really cool. But as a result, there's a lot of distance runners that are just super good and super talented. And as a middle distance runner, I really didn't have the opportunity to compete in cross country. So right after nationals, this last, my junior year in Austin, Texas, I talked to coach. I'm like, hey, coach, I want to start traveling for the cross country team. What can I do to do that? And he's just like, well, your aerobic base is the weakest part of your whole like character. Let's strengthen that. So I only did like a month worth of high mileage, and that got me good enough to get on the cross country team to travel. So I was really grateful for that, and that was super fun. And to be there and be a part of the team, and to kind of like help influence that type of championship culture was just the big high that I needed coming into the indoor season. So for the winter season, it was my senior year. Your senior year, you just got to feel like you got to step up. You just got to grit through those hard workouts because those hard workouts will get you better. And a lot of my teammates that have recently gone pro, like Clayton Young, Connor McMillan, Rory Linkletter, all of them said that their senior year was their year to shine. So I kind of just felt like it was like my destiny just to do that. And I felt really propelled to work hard, and I saw the improvements coming. And so that was kind of like what my winter was like, just coming off of cross country, feeling really solid. The fact that I was the only middle distance runner on the BYU team to actually make the cross country team and travel and contribute. And so that was just little steps of confidence here and there to really get me to where I was at during winter season.
Let's talk about that sub 4 mile. Let's talk about that 3:58, because that is like a dream. That's amazing. Like, there's only a handful of people who have ever done it. What was that race like for you?
It was surreal. It was a dream. I mean, it was definitely on my bucket list ever since I started running the mile back in high school. At the same time, it was very conservative. I don't know. When I was running into that race, I wasn't like, oh, am I in sub 4 shape? It was more, how far can I get under? And with the workouts that I was doing, Coach Eyestone was telling me like, oh yeah, you're definitely in sub 4 shape. And it was my first mile ever of my senior season. I'm like, okay, well, I can't mess up. So I feel like it was a little conservative on my part. I mean, if you saw my race, I was in the back the entire time, and it was only with 400 to go that I was like, oh crap, I need to start going. It's like we're coming through at 3 flat, and I need to get going. So I was like, all right, let's get going. So I started passing everyone, and I felt really good. and finishing at 3:58, I was like, yes, I did it. I finally did it. But at the same time, I was like, wow, I'm like celebrating. I have a lot of energy. Wow, I could have gone faster. And that was like super exciting for me at that moment. So with the fact that I finally accomplished a dream of mine ever since I was little, and the fact that I had so much energy to be so excited about it afterwards, it was just a runner's high. And it was just it was a moment that I would remember for the rest of my life for sure.
So you were riding a number of highs that just kept taking you kind of one step higher, the cross country season and that national championship thing. That's just incredible. Certainly a 3:58 mile. Were there any other peaks during the winter time that were giving you confidence as well?
Those two were the really good ones. The DMR team, when we finally ran in North Carolina and qualified for the national championships, that was really cool because the past 3 years we've tried to make it and be top 12, but we were always 13th. We were always like one spot out for the past couple of years. And so it really just hurt every single time. So coming in as a sub 4 miler, I was like, all right, this is my turn to make sure that we make it. And it was really cool to race there and to challenge Washington, Virginia Tech, and Arkansas in the last mile to see who could qualify for the nationals. And it was really cool to have the energy that I had when I finished there as well, because I did a 3:59 split on the North Carolina track, which is a flat track. So apparently you get a conversion for it, but I don't care about it. But it was just the fact that I was just there competing and having so much fun with it. That was definitely another step that helped me with my confidence. And my workouts as well have been were very, very solid and very good. They're probably the best workouts I've had in my life. Yeah. And I was dropping there were a couple of middle distance runners that were trying to train with me to get better. And there was just always a gap between us during each split. And that was very weird to me because these guys were the guys that were kicking my butt in cross country. Yeah. Like Matt Owens was top 45 in the nation for cross country. And he's the one that helped to solidify our 5th spot for cross country to win it. And here I am destroying him in these speed endurance workouts. And so that was just another thing. I'm like, wow, like I am really, really in good shape. And I really do attribute that to Coach Eyestone and the training workouts that he's been putting me through. But at the same time, I also attribute it to the fact that I've just really dedicated myself to kill it this senior year. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what hurts real bad when, I'm just all there, I'm all in it, and then it's just all taken away. So I was definitely depressed afterwards, but with the depression, you have to do something about it or else you just kind of stuck there. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I kind of started to get back to my base training and stuff like that.
Yeah. And, that's an entirely legitimate depression too. Just we were talking with someone recently, especially high school and college seniors, to have that moment just suddenly taken away. And for some, taken away permanently. For others, you're going to have kind of, another chance at it with the redshirt scenario they've offered. But it doesn't necessarily matter that you have another chance at it. That moment was still taken away. And that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard in the moment, and then it's hard to re-engage and find that motivation again. I'm curious, do you feel like some of the highs that we're building during that time have helped to keep you motivated now, or are you looking a different direction for the motivation right now?
At first, they definitely were helping me get through, just because it was just like, well, what am I doing right now with my life? I mean, yeah, I'm finishing up my degree. I'm getting my bachelor's degree, which has always been a goal for me in my life as well. But I was like, I've dedicated so much to track, like, what now? And so looking back and being like, well, I've had this. I've accomplished a lot of things in my life. I went sub 4. That was a big bucket list goal. Yeah. And the Olympic trials, so I was trying to qualify for that in the 15. And so I was like, well, I haven't had an opportunity to do that. Now I should start looking forward to trying to accomplish that bucket list and try to qualify for an Olympic trials. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, the highs of the winter season of the indoor track definitely was helpful at first. But now seeing that the Olympic trials was postponed, that gave me a lot of hope. Because I didn't know if I was going to be able to even qualify for the 15. And now to see that they've postponed that, and now they've been able to actually give me an opportunity to compete and be able to qualify, that gave me a lot of hope. And now I'm actually looking forward to that most out of everything.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. I can appreciate your willingness to kind of have a mind shift there in what you're expecting and hoping for. That's not always easy to do. For many of us, we have a hard time being willing to look at a different thing for the driving factor. And so I appreciate that you're willing to share that.
Yeah, and it's
No,
exciting that
thank
you're going to
you.
be doing this base phase, that you do have time for this, because you are just so fiery, talented, like you've got the speed, and just there's an opportunity for you here to be able to use this base, like you said, to lift that ceiling, to really explore and play with how fast you can go. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I mean, you guys probably know that the ceiling improves a lot more when you guys do aerobic base. I still have yet to find the full benefits of it, but I'm super looking forward to it when I get to be able to run these 10-mile tempos. I'm feeling great doing it. Because right now I'm hurting.
Yeah. Well, when you're doing it right, it tends to always hurt at least a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
I guess you don't necessarily need us to encourage you anymore. You already know these things, but they say that there's really no limit to how high you can raise your aerobic ceiling. So, the time you're spending, every step you take at this kind of aerobic base scenario is taking you one step further toward your goals. So that's great.
Hopefully I get there.
Yeah.
Well, you've already gotten to such a great place. So, I mean, even the things that you've done have really shown that you have the talent for this sport. And I'm excited to see who picks you up, like professionally. We'll be following your career for sure.
Hey, thank you. I sure hope someone picks me up.
Well, anyone who's listening that has any pull, Talem is here with us. He wants, to go pro. So pick him up.
Yes, please.
So walking down that road, you mentioned earlier that if there's some races that open up this summer, you want to try to jump into some of that if there's opportunity. What does next year look like if you're able to put together the year that would set you up for your goals? What does that look like for you?
Well, it's definitely going to look like a long aerobic base throughout cross-country season. Setting up for the outdoor, it'd be first meet running at Stanford, trying to hit a really like a sub 340, 15, whether it be solo or with anyone that wants to be there with me, because I'm going to try to really hit a hard first 15 just to get a good close as I can to see how I feel. Then it'll probably be me just training really hard for Brian Clay. Brian Clay's a renowned 1,500 meter race. Like everyone wants to be there. The NCAA collegiate record by Josh Kerr was set there, 335. Yep. And so it's an amazing atmosphere, and I'm just really gearing for that to try to hit a standard mark. I mean, I was going to go for just trying to qualify for the trials, maybe see if I could hit 336. That was my goal coming in my senior year. But now that I have an extra year, I'm like, heck, why not? Go 334, 333. Let's see what happens. So
absolutely,
I'm definitely being audacious with my trainings right now. But I feel like that's how it's got to be. With a dream, it has to be audacious. It has to be daunting, and it has to be able to give you a kind of a motivation to go to sleep at night early, wake up early, eat well, train hard, train smart, be healthy. So that's kind of how it's going to be this outdoor season next year. If everything's well, race at Stanford, then race at Brian Clay, try to hit a standard there, maybe go for the NCAA record. And then it would be trying to run at Peyton Jordan at Stanford again that next month, because I know a lot of professionals run there. And if I didn't get the standard there, I know I'd have an amazing opportunity to race with professionals, to be right there where I want to be in the future, to race against them, to prove to them that I deserve to be a professional just as much as they do.
Absolutely.
And then hopefully with that, qualify for regionals, make to the national, like the big dance. And then with that next week, take it into the Olympic trials and try to be top 3.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of how it all sets up.
Yeah, right. So what are you telling yourself, the positive self-talk or the mantra kind of thing, when you're getting ready for races, or when you're even just thinking about races, or just trying to get through those tough moments in training? What's going on in your head to help move you forward during those times?
I definitely have to remind myself why I'm there. So the purpose of why I'm there is definitely like my mantra that helps me through. It's like, I am here because I want to be here. I want to compete. I want to qualify and to accomplish a dream of mine of becoming a professional runner. I want to be an Olympian. I want to prove to myself that no limit will define me and define my character. And those type of mantras are what kind of pushes me through to step onto that track, to step up to the starting line, to push me through those hard gut buster workouts. And through this time, honestly, this pandemic where I'm kind of feeling very lazy, but at the same time, I have to keep reminding myself, hey, I'm training, I'm running every day, twice a day, because I want to make the Olympics. I want to be an Olympian. I want to be an Olympian. So those are the type of mantras that I'm trying to push. I'm saying to myself a lot recently to kind of push me through.
So when did those start? Did you know, like when you were a kid, that you wanted to be a runner or an athlete, or has it kind of progressed over time?
Progressed over time for sure. When I was little, I have a lot of siblings. I have 11 siblings. I come from a big family, and I'd always be chased around. I was very, very small at the time, so I'd always be chased around. I'd always be running for my life, because if I got caught by my brothers, I'd be tickled to death or beat up, or you know how it is being the little brother. You kind of picked on a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I definitely found my running legs there when I was little. I could run really, really fast, and I could run away from them. So that was just a stepping stone. I feel like it's progressed very, very kind of in a similar way. Like my dad got me into sports. I started playing football. My dad played played football in high school, and he ran track. And so he's like, well, run track in the off season so you can get in shape for football. Turns out I have a knack for track, and my brothers had a knack for football. So he's like, okay, well, let's focus on track for you. And so it was just kind of progressed little by little. And I was very, very ignorant about the whole recruiting thing for college, but luckily I showed enough talent and skill that I was able to get picked up by BYU. And then BYU just really opened my eyes about the opportunities that I have to compete in track. And then that's where everything started to hatch. Like, oh, I could go to the Olympics. Oh, I'm really good at the mile. I can go sub-4. Let's do this. Oh, that's just little by little, it's definitely progressed. And I feel like the more it's progressed and the more opportunities that have been open to me, the more I've been really just falling in love with running. I've been loving to go out there. It's not a toll for me to go out to run, even if it's 95 degrees outside today. I'm like, I just know that it'll feel great in the long run when I'm standing there on the podium, top 3 on the U.S. Championship, saying I get to go to the Olympics. I'm an Olympian. Those are the moments there's like, yeah, it'll be all worth it. So it's definitely been progressive throughout this process of me starting out small and then being able to develop into the runner that I am today.
Yeah.
So I just listened to a podcast with Alan Webb, and I'm just curious because you're also a miler. And he said that when he runs a race, it's like this instinct takes over. Like he just knows what to do. And it's not as much like words going through his head as it is like just like pure instinct. What is it like for you?
I would say it's very similar. I always hear a lot from the runners. And I'm like, what were you thinking like at this point of the race? And they're like, oh, well, I was telling myself that, oh, I'm way too far in the back. I should probably move up and everything like that. And I'm like, I'm not telling myself anything. Like I am actually not really thinking about like what's the next step. I'm actually thinking about like what I have to do now. And I feel like I attribute that a lot to how good of a racer I am. I feel like as me personally, I'm a better racer than I am a time trialer. And I feel like I'm definitely on the same page with Alan Webb with being very instinctive. Like I really don't think a lot when unless the race is too long. Like I really don't think a lot about a race unless it's too long. And in fact, actually that kind of reminds me of the 3K that I just barely ran in this last indoor season. I was on pace. I was in a professional race with the Bowerman Track Club and a couple of Oregon guys. I was feeling really good, but as soon as I hit 25K, I started thinking about the race, and I'm like, oh, I should probably get up there. I'm in second to last place. And that's when it started hurting really bad. And I was like, oh man, I'm thinking about this. I am starting to hurt real bad. And I faded real hard. Yeah. I was on pace to probably hit a sub 755, but man, it hurt so bad. And I was thinking too much about it. So when I think about the mile, I'm like, wow, the mile feels great because I don't really think about it. I just kind of just do it, And so I'm definitely on the same page with Alan Webb for sure.
Okay.
That's a good insight there. I've often felt like to be a great miler, you have to have good instincts, because it just doesn't seem like there's enough time to think in the race. Like, you just don't have the time to really wonder, what am I going to do next, or what, because it's 4 laps or 8 laps, or what kind of track you're running on, who knows how many laps, but it's a few minutes and then you're basically done. And it's like,
so if you think too much, then you might be waiting too long and miss the boat.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. And it's very different from a marathon, that's for sure.
So I've got one more question for you, and Andy might have one as well before we wrap up. But thinking about, there's a lot of collegiate runners and just out of college runners who, we've talked to a bit or even listened to this podcast. One of the challenges here is what's kind of the good message that we all should be considering during this time and trying to get through these experiences and such. If we haven't already said it, and maybe we have, and you can just reiterate it during this conversation here, but if we haven't already said it, what is one more thing that you want to make sure that those listening get from your experiences and your mindset?
I would say that I think the biggest takeaway that if you guys could take anything away from our conversation today, would be that the future is as bright as your beliefs. If you really are confident that the future will work well for you, that everything will work out the way that it is. I mean, yeah, it's very dismal and very gloomy right now, but if you believe that things will work better, that you have a chance to do something that you've always wanted to do in the future, like, believe that and have that carry you through these hard and dark times.
Awesome.
So good.
I really, I'm kind of reveling in this a little bit right now, because that's exactly not the message that you feel like you're hearing when you're just like paying attention to the world at large right now. And like you said, it's kind of a dismal time. And so it's really easy to be pessimistic and to not feel like things are going to get better or that the opportunities will come back. So that's a great message. Thank you.
So I'm going to read something that you gave to us for a blog post that I'll link to in our notes, which is AtoZrunning.com/episode 35. All right. So I'll link to it for everyone listening. But Talem, you said, throughout my running career, one of the things that catalyzed my progress and improvement was focusing on what I could control. This helped me, especially when things were uncertain and well, I was injured or dealing with other hardships. Do you want to reflect on that a little bit? I thought it was such a good quote.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I've learned throughout this college process, I mean, I used to be so flimsy as a runner and as a character in high school, because I would always think and worry about the littlest things that I really had no control or no kind of ability to take over. And throughout my college experience with running, I've had to really let go of the things that are surrounding me that are just beyond my control, and to really just take control of the things that I have control of, like what time I go to bed, what time I wake up, what time I go for a run, how many miles I do for a run, what do I eat, and all that stuff has really helped catalyze me and being the person I am today. I really just I feel like I'm very mature when it comes to life events that happen. Like, for example, the pandemic that's occurring right now. I mean, I have no control over what's happening with the virus and how it's spreading and everything, but I do have control over, like I said, the amount of sleep that I can do, the amount of running that I can do each day, the amount of miles that I do each day. And so, yeah, I do try to put myself in this whole picture, this mosaic right now, and say, yeah, I really do not know what's going on, and I can't really control all these surrounding influences around me, but I can control my attitude. I can't control my decisions, and that's what's kind of helping me through this hard time. And so, kind of when the pandemic occurred, it wasn't like all hope's lost, because it was just like, no, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm already doing already. So it wasn't really just a change of environments or influences, it was just a continuing mindset that I've developed over the last couple of years as a runner.
Oh, I love that. That's great. I love that you have like the practical things that you're able to control, but then also that you're able to control your outlook, and you're able to control how you dream about your future and what you believe you can do. So that is a really good message, a really great takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. So we, of course, appreciate your time and your willingness to kind of be vulnerable with our audience, share from your experiences here. Certainly, we are really looking forward to what can be the next steps here. When things start getting back to competition and the seasons roll back through, we're excited to see where that takes you. And I'm glad that you're willing to kind of share those future goals, because we can have some specific things to look at and look forward to. We love watching all those meets. So, whether we get out to these things in person or just live stream it, we'll be tuning in for sure.
Sweet. Thanks. I really appreciate the support. It means a lot.
We're going to link to how you can follow Talem in our blog post. And as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I'll have his handle, which is
TM Franco 10.
Well, now you see beyond all doubt why we were so excited to talk to Talem and why we were so excited to share that conversation with you. And I definitely agree with him on the point that the future is bright. And it has a lot to do with whether you believe in the brightness of that future.
There's a lot of talk about looking at things with optimism, but I liked how he talked about what you can control about what you see about yourself. And on my run, I was just excited to think about what I believed that I could do, what I believed that I could become. And I think that's just a really powerful thing, because when you're thinking about who you are, you might be critical of yourself. And so when you look to the future as to what you will become, it helps you see what you would be if you strengthen those weaknesses, if you worked on those things. It's a vision of the future that can help motivate the present. And I've always kind of resisted this thought in the past, because I always thought that was taking away from being satisfied about where you are right now. But I don't believe that's the case, because it's kind of diving into the potentiality and knowing that I have all the tools I need to get there. I just have to hammer it down. I have to do the work, but I can envision myself in that place if I am to commit to the process.
That's a good observation, because it's not about being at that place immediately and instantaneously. Like suddenly all my goals and dreams are accomplished and I'm there. And so the contentment with where you are has a lot to do with, did I do what I could today with where I am to help move me toward my goals? And those goals don't have to be something grandiose either. Whatever simplicity these goals are. And I can be happy with where I am today, knowing that I did what I could with my circumstances to move me toward those goals.
So we might not all be like Talem, who has the opportunity of potentially making an Olympic team, but like for me, maybe breaking that 17-minute barrier in the 5K, that's something that's on my horizon.
Sweat. Just, everybody listening is thinking about breaking 17 minutes.
No, I'm just saying for me, like that's my thing. Like your thing might be different. Maybe your thing is stringing together 5 days of running in a row. Maybe your thing...
How did you guess my thing? That is my thing.
Maybe your thing is potentially being able to run with your kids when they get into grade school. There's so many things that we can be looking at and striving for and putting our mind's eye into what we can become and having that future be bright.
And it's a combination of what do I do and who am I? And those two parts always play together. How am I identifying myself in that too? Because it's not just about doing the right things, but do I actually see myself in that way?
Very good. Well, we loved having Talem on, and we will definitely be linking as to how to follow Talem on social media, and we'll definitely be looking. We'll be keeping you updated on his progress.
That and the many other interesting moves that are happening in running around the world right now. Stay tuned, because there's so much more.
Yes, and thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed to this podcast as well as left reviews. That's super helpful for us, being able to rate it. That gets us in front of a larger audience.
That's where it's at.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.